welcome to the Senior Techie Podcast. Imagine a fire broke out in your home right now,
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
right? Terrible thought. But everyone is out safely, the pets are accounted for, and you're standing on the sidewalk. What is the very next thing you wish you had grabbed?
For most of us, it's the family photo albums, the physical memories.
Exactly. But what happens when the fire isn't in your living room, but say in a server of a tech company that you completely forgot you even had an account with?
Yeah, that's a completely different kind of fire.
Or what if the fire is simply the passage of time? Like you're no longer around to type in the password that unlocks a lifetime of family history.
It's an incredibly urgent scenario to think about. I mean, when we look at how families have preserved their history over the last century or so, it was always a physical inheritance, right?
Right, yeah.
You inherited the heavy leather-bound album that smelled faintly of your grandparents' attic, or you found the shoebox full of loose Kodachrome slides shoved under a bed.
The classic shoebox.
Exactly. It was tangible. If you walked into a house to clear it out, you would physically stumble over the memories.
You really couldn't miss a giant box labeled, photos 1985 to 1999. But today, the way we store our lives has completely changed.
Yeah.
And the consequences are, well, they're massive.
They really are.
Our memories are entirely digital now. They're hidden behind complex 16-character passwords. They're tucked away inside apps on phones that just automatically lock themselves.
Or tied to email accounts your family might not even know you possess.
Exactly. The harsh reality is that when you are gone, that digital library does not magically open its doors for the people you love.
And we really have to recognize the stakes here because they are so much higher than just sentimentality, though obviously the emotional value of a family photo is profound.
Oh, absolutely.
But what we are really talking about is preserving the visual and written record of the people who came before us. I mean, we're talking about extensive genealogy files that someone spent decades compiling.
Wow, yeah, that takes years.
We are talking about scanned historical documents, immigration papers, personal writings, journals, and videos of voices we will literally never hear speak again.
Right.
If we don't actively secure these things, that history cannot be reconstructed. The digital vault just quietly clicks shut forever.
It is a sobering thought. But I want to remind everyone listening right now, it is also an incredibly empowering one, because this is entirely fixable.
It really is.
As we always say here at the Senior Techie, you are highly capable of mastering modern technology.
Yeah.
I mean, you have adapted to countless massive changes in how the world operates over the decades.
Exactly. You've seen it all.
You do not lack the ability to handle this.
Yeah.
You just need the right roadmap. So I want to challenge you right now with an empowering but urgent question. If you weren't around, would your family know where your photos live?
That really is the crux of the issue, isn't it? Because before we can start unlocking doors for our families, we have to do a little bit of detective work to find out where the doors actually are.
We need a map.
Right. We have to map out where these memories are currently hiding. And this brings up what we often refer to as the scatter effect.
Yes, the scatter effect. Let's break down how this happens, because I think a lot of people feel guilty that their photos are a mess, when in reality, it's just the natural progression of technology over the last 20 years.
It's not your fault. It's just how the tech evolved.
Exactly. Let's define some jargon and translate it into the physical world to make it easier. Let's start with the camera roll.
Okay.
If you hear that term, I want you to think of the camera roll on your smartphone exactly like an undeveloped strip of film sitting right inside your physical point-and-shoot camera.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
It lives locally, right there in the physical device you're holding in your hand. If you drop that phone in a lake, the film strip goes with it.
Right. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the cloud, which is a term that honestly frustrates a lot of people.
Oh, I hear it all the time.
Because it sounds so mysterious and invisible, like your photos are just magically floating in the sky somewhere.
Which they aren't. Let's demystify the cloud right now. The cloud is just somebody else's computer.
Yes.
Think of it like renting a highly secure off-site safety deposit box at a massive bank. It is a physical place far away from your house where exact copies of your photos are stored and kept safe.
Right. So if your house, God forbid, like we said earlier, catches fire or your phone gets lost, the photos are still perfectly safe in that off-site deposit box.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And once you understand that distinction, the film strip sitting in your hand versus the vault across town, you see how the scatter effect takes over a lifetime.
Absolutely. Think about your own technological journey over the years. Maybe in, say, 2005, you bought a digital point-and-shoot camera.
I definitely have one of those.
Right. And those photos got dumped onto a big, heavy desktop computer that is now just sitting in a closet somewhere.
Collecting dust.
Exactly. Then maybe you got your first smartphone, maybe an Android, and took photos there.
Yeah.
Later, you switched to an iPad. Meanwhile, you were uploading vacation albums to Facebook.
It's basically an archaeological dig.
It really is.
The scatter effect means your photos aren't just in one place. They are scattered across a surprisingly wide chronological landscape of different devices and platforms.
Right.
You have a camera roll on your current phone. You have iCloud photos or Google Photos acting as your safety deposit boxes.
Right.
You have 10 years of holiday pictures
Yeah.
that maybe only exist on Facebook or Instagram. You have external USB sticks bouncing around in desk drawers.
It becomes an overwhelming web, and this is where we have to be incredibly practical. Diagnosis precedes treatment, right?
Right.
The very first step to rescuing your digital legacy is not buying new software or clicking 100 buttons on your computer.
No. Please do not try to solve everything today. As an avid follower of the senior techie philosophy, you know we take things one step at a time.
One bite at a time.
Yes. Your action item for this phase is beautifully simple. Get a physical piece of paper and a pen, and just write down a list of the places you know you have photos.
Just take a mental inventory and put it on paper.
Exactly. Something like, I have photos on my iPhone, I have some on Facebook, and there's that one hard drive in the office. That is it. You conquer the unknown just by naming it.
And once you have that map, we can look at the actual tools that solve the problem. Because the good news here is that the major technology companies are fully aware that this is a looming crisis.
They know it's an issue.
Yeah, Apple and Google haven't left us completely in the dark. They have actually built powerful master keys into their systems, specifically designed to hand over access to your loved ones when you pass away.
The tragedy is that most people have never heard of these tools.
I know, it's a shame.
They are built right into the phones and computers we use every single day.
Yeah.
So let's start with Apple. They have a system called the Legacy Contact.
Yes.
Now, what is the mechanism here? I want you to think of it like naming a digital executor in a will. But the brilliance of Apple's approach is that you are not giving this person your daily password.
Right, that's a huge distinction.
You aren't giving them the code to snoop through your text messages right now. Instead, Apple creates a secure digital lockbox that requires 2 distinct keys to open.
That dual key mechanism is the real genius of the system. It protects your privacy entirely while you are alive. So the first key is a unique access code that your iPhone generates when you set up the Legacy Contact feature.
Okay.
You print that code out, or you can even text it directly to your daughter or your trusted friend. But that code alone does absolutely nothing today.
Right, so they can't just type it in and start looking at your photos right now.
Exactly. To actually unlock the vault, they need the second key. And the second key is a legally verified death certificate provided by the government.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, so when the time comes, your designated contact goes to a specific Apple website, types in the code you gave them years ago, and uploads the death certificate. Apple verifies the documents, and only then do they hand over the keys to the kingdom.
Wait, let me just clarify something, because I know people worry about this. Wait, does my family need to know my actual Apple ID password to do this?
No, not at all. They only need that special access key we just talked about and the death certificate. Your actual password stays private.
Oh, that's such a relief. And it really is the kingdom they get access to. This grants them access to a massive sweep of your history. They get the iCloud photos, your messages, the Notes app where you might have written down family recipes, and all your iCloud Drive files. It's a beautifully secure system.
It really is. But as we know with technology, one size does not fit all.
Nope, never does.
Apple's approach is great if your entire family lives inside the Apple ecosystem. But if you are the family historian managing decades of records in Gmail and Google Drive, or if you use an Android phone, Apple's master key won't help you at all. We need to shift gears to Google.
Right, and Google approaches this from a completely different but equally fascinating angle. They have a feature called the Inactive Account Manager.
Yes, the Inactive Account Manager.
If Apple's system requires someone to actively bring a death certificate to the gates, I like to think of Google's feature as a timed vault, like a dead man's switch.
A timed vault is the perfect way to conceptualize it. The entire system is built on recognizing your absence.
Right.
Google essentially acts as a digital watchman. You tell the watchman, hey, if you don't hear from me for a certain amount of time, I want you to automatically open the vault and hand the contents to these specific people.
It's literally just waiting for you to stop logging in.
Yeah.
And the customization here is what really impressed me. You aren't limited to just one executor like a traditional will.
No, you can designate up to 10 trusted contacts.
10.
Yeah.
And you can get incredibly granular with who gets what, right?
Exactly. You can tell Google, if the timer runs out, give my spouse access to absolutely everything, the Gmail, the Google Drive documents, the photos. But for my adult children, maybe just send them a link to download the Google Photos. You retain complete control over the permissions.
I love that. And you control the timer itself, too.
Yes, you can instruct Google to wait 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months of total inactivity. If you haven't checked your email, watched a YouTube video, or used your phone in that time frame, Google automatically executes your wishes.
They just handle it.
Yeah, they send an email to your trusted contacts with secure links to download the data you promised them.
It's so proactive, the system reaches out to them. And setting either of these up, whether it's the Apple Legacy Contact or the Google Inactive Account Manager, is just a matter of searching for those exact terms in your phone settings or your Google account dashboard.
Right. It doesn't require downloading anything extra. It just requires making a decision.
I really want to encourage everyone listening, try to set up just one of these tools this week. It only takes about 10 minutes.
It's a very quick process, and taking that step ensures your cloud storage, those safety deposit boxes, are secure. But moving chronologically through our digital lives, we have to acknowledge a massive blind spot here.
Oh, yeah.
These built-in master keys from Apple and Google only work on data that is connected to the internet. They have absolutely no power over the offline world.
Right, the dusty digital addicts. Let's translate some more jargon for folks. We're talking about physical hardware here. A USB stick or an external hard drive. These are the physical gadgets sitting in your desk drawer right now.
The ones gathering dust.
Exactly. We're also talking about complex desktop software programs like Lightroom. For those who don't know, Lightroom is basically a professional digital darkroom for photographers. It's a complex program that locks your photos into its own highly specific cataloging system.
Right.
To use our physical analogy again, these offline items are not safety deposit boxes at the bank. These are heavy, locked filing cabinets sitting right inside your home office.
And the harsh reality is that if your family doesn't know what is inside that external drive or how to open that Lightroom catalog, it is very likely going to get tossed into the donation bin along with the old tax receipts and outdated charging cables.
Which is heartbreaking to think about.
Truly, we need a completely different strategy for these offline files.
The most practical solution here is getting those important files out of the filing cabinet and into a shared folder.
Yes, a shared folder.
We're talking about using a service like Dropbox, Google Drive, or Microsoft OneDrive. You create a master folder on your computer that syncs to the internet, plug in that old USB stick, and start dragging your most important photos into it.
And the organization within that folder is vital. Please, don't just dump 10,000 files labeled Image 001 into a folder and call it a day.
Oh, what a nightmare that is to sort through.
It really is. Create a clear structure. Make a folder for the 1970s. Make a folder specifically for the maternal branch of the family tree. Drop in the genealogy spreadsheets, the scanned marriage certificates, the high-resolution family portraits.
Now, I have to point out a technical reality check here, just because I don't want anyone to get frustrated when they try this.
Always a good idea.
If you have been taking digital photos for 20 years, that old hard drive might hold 100 gigabytes of data. The free versions of Google Drive or Dropbox usually only give you a small amount of space, like maybe 15 gigabytes.
Yeah.
Trying to cram a lifetime of photos into a free account just isn't going to work.
That is a very important caveat. You really have two options when you hit that storage wall. You can choose to pay a small monthly subscription to upgrade your cloud storage space, which honestly many people find is well worth the peace of mind.
Definitely.
Or you take a more collaborative approach. You physically hand that USB drive to your son, your daughter, or a trusted younger relative, and you say, hey, I've organized these. Can you please upload them to the family's paid cloud plan?
I love that. It's a great way to bridge the generational tech gap. And that leads to the absolute beauty of this shared folder method. If Apple's tool is a lockbox waiting for a death certificate, this shared folder is a spare key you're handing out right now. By sending your family an email invitation to this folder today, you are giving them access to the digital house while you are still here to enjoy the photos with them. No death certificate required. They can log in from their own homes, browse the history you've curated, and download the pictures they love immediately.
It completely transforms what could be a morbid legacy project into a living, breathing family connection.
It really does.
However, Gathering the photos into one place and clearing the technical hurdles is ultimately only half the battle. We have to adjust the context,
Right.
because a photo without context rapidly loses its historical value.
It's so true. Without context, an image is really just pixels on a screen. We have to add the heart back into the files.
There is a really powerful distinction to consider here. Imagine your grandchildren are exploring that shared folder, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they click on a black and white photo of your grandmother when she was 25 years old. It's a lovely photo. It is meaningful just to see her face at that age. But now, imagine they find that exact same photo, and right next to it is a little note explaining that the picture was taken the week she immigrated from Poland, and that she didn't speak a single word of English when the camera clicked.
Oh, wow. That completely changes everything.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, without the note, she's just a young woman in an old dress standing on a sidewalk. With the note, she's a hero. She's a survivor. That is a family treasure that speaks to resilience.
Exactly. Context turns a digital file into a true historical heirloom. And the execution of this is wonderfully simple.
It really is. You do not need fancy software to do this. Remember that shared folder we just set up? All you have to do is open up a blank document on your computer, just a basic text file or a Word document, and save it right next to the photos in that folder.
So easy.
You can title it something simple like The Story Behind the Photos. Inside, you just list the file name, the date, who is in the picture, and a short story about what was happening. As the senior techie always says, your family won't know what they don't know unless you write it down.
That's brilliant. And you don't have to tackle the whole archive at once either. Pick 5 photos this week and write just 2 sentences about each one.
Just 2 sentences.
Yeah. It might take you 15 minutes over your morning coffee, but it is the ultimate gift you can leave behind.
It truly is. Now, to wrap up our technical roadmap today, we have to address a few crucial FAQs and common pitfalls to avoid.
Oh, yes. We definitely need to cover these.
Because when folks get motivated to organize their digital legacy, they often make a few well-intentioned but incredibly dangerous mistakes. I'm going to bring up a huge one that I hear from listeners all the time.
Let's hear it.
People ask me, why go through all this setup? Can't I just put my main passwords in my will?
Oh, boy. I am so glad you asked that, because the answer is a definitive absolute no. Please never do that.
I figured you'd say that.
What many people don't realize is that when a will goes through the probate process after you pass away, it becomes a matter of public record.
Wait, really? I don't think most people realize that. It becomes a public document.
Yes, it does. Anyone can go down to the local courthouse and request to see it. If you put your email, social media, and banking passwords in the text of your will, you are essentially printing the master keys to your entire life and pinning them to a public bulletin board for anyone to copy down.
That is terrifying.
It is a massive security trap. It leaves your estate so vulnerable to identity theft and fraud.
I actually had a friend whose lawyer suggested keeping a password list as an appendix to the will. But even that feels risky. The proper strategy is what we advised back in week 3. Right?
Oh, exactly.
You separate the legal from the operational, put passwords in a printed document, store it securely at home, perhaps in a fireproof lockbox, and leave it with a trusted person who knows where to find it.
Keep it entirely separate from the courts. Now, another pitfall people fall into is what we call the dilution threat.
The deletion threat. Okay, what's that?
Well, a lot of folks assume that because a company like Google is a massive, multi-billion-dollar corporation, they will simply preserve your data in their servers forever, like some free, eternal museum, even if you never log in again.
Which is definitely not the case.
Not at all. Google's policies explicitly state that they reserve the right to delete data from accounts that have been inactive for an extended period.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just to save server space. It isn't a malicious action. It's just digital house cleaning. But that is exactly why setting up that inactive account manager we discussed earlier is so vital.
To stop that from happening.
Right. It is the only guaranteed way to stop that automatic deletion and ensure your designated loved ones can actually download the data before the servers wipe it clean.
You have to give the tech giants explicit instructions. Otherwise, they will just sweep the floor. Now, I know we have focused heavily on Apple, Google, and hard drives today, but I can already hear the listeners asking, what about Facebook? What about Instagram?
Social media.
Yeah, people have thousands of family photos locked up entirely on social media.
Social media is an entirely different beast with a lot of moving parts. Those platforms have very specific and sometimes restrictive policies. For example, Facebook allows for an account to be memorialized, which basically freezes the profile as a tribute page.
Right. Or it can be permanently removed, I think.
Exactly. But here is the catch. If your family wants to actually download your entire high-resolution photo archive from Facebook, that generally requires action and setup before you pass away.
Ah, I see.
Once an account is officially memorialized, the bulk download features are often locked out just to protect the deceased person's privacy.
That is a massive detail that catches families off guard all the time. But because social media privacy rules and memorialization settings are so complex, we are going to dedicate an entire discussion to that specifically.
That's probably for the best.
I promise you, we will cover securing your social media accounts in detail next week. So for today, give yourself permission to ignore Facebook. Just focus on your phones, your cloud storage, and those offline hard drives.
Taking a step-by-step approach is always the most sustainable way to handle technology.
Exactly. So let's summarize the journey we've mapped out today. We started by mapping the terrain, grabbing a piece of paper and writing down where your photos actually live, acknowledging the scatter effect across old phones and new iPads.
The first crucial step.
Then we talked about handing over the digital combination locks by setting up an Apple Legacy contact or a Google Inactive Account Manager. For the offline files, those dusty digital attics, we discussed moving them into a shared cloud folder and enlisting younger family members if you hit a storage wall.
Yep.
And finally, we talked about adding the heart back in, writing those simple text files to give your memories context and a voice. It might seem like a lot of ground to cover, but remember, you are entirely capable of securing your legacy 10 minutes at a time.
And as you begin this process, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We live in an era where we take more photos in a single day than our ancestors took in an entire lifetime. We document everything.
We really do.
But I want you to consider this. Take a mental inventory right now. Is there one specific place where the vast majority of your life's photos live, or are your memories currently scattered across half a dozen apps and devices? If we don't actively pass on the master keys to these digital vaults, will historians 100 years from now look back at us as the most documented generation in human history? Or will they look back at this era as a digital dark age, a massive blank spot in the historical record, simply because all of our memories were permanently locked behind expired passwords?
This podcast was brought to you by The Senior Techie. It's available on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. If you'd like to receive their free newsletters, you can subscribe at subscribe.theseniortechie.com.